There's a phrase in what I want to look at today from First Peter chapter 3. It's verse 13 is where we're going to begin, where he writes, "Who is going to harm you if you are eager to do good?" Now, that eager to do good, those four words they resonate with me for what I think is an interesting reason. I don't find the world to generally be eager to do what is good. What I look around and see, I see it in education, politics, I see it in the church, I see it in business, I see it in personal relationships, I see it in marriages. I basically see it everywhere. People who are eager to do what is good for them. They're looking for what is my best option. You know, when I was in youth ministry, I was a youth minister for 17 years. And granted, this was back in the 70s and 80s, in the very first part of the 90s, which just that confession makes me feel old. But anyway, I remember often, it seemed like youth ministry was about 2/3 creating events and 1/3 trying to disciple kids. Youth ministry is a hard variety of ministry. And if you have a youth minister in your circle of friends or acquaintances or in your church, you need to love on them because it takes tons of physical and emotional energy, and it can be very discouraging. One of the things that was discouraging to me was I would put together an event, and it might only be a Bible study, it might be youth group, it might be some special thing we're going to do. I would invite a kid, and they would say, "Yeah, I think I'll be there," except I knew what they meant. What they meant was, unless I get a better offer. And most of the time, those kids didn't need much of a better offer to change their mind. I watched those kids grow up. And you know what? A whole lot of them are still working off that paradigm. I am eager to do what is good for me. Our natures were broken when Adam and Eve took the fruit. Sin entered the world, and our whole nature as human beings was broken. We now have this proclivity, this propensity, this gravitational pull toward what we think is good for us. We're not very interested in what's good for somebody else unless by doing what's good for them, I get a return of what's good for me. And now, I don't want to be too harsh with this, and I don't want to categorize everybody and throw everybody in the same bucket, because there are some people who have tempered this proclivity by giving into God and His Spirit, and who now have returned as best we can as broken people to our original design, where it isn't just about doing what is good for me, eager to do what is good for me. It is now eager to do what is good. One of my very favorite passages out of the New Testament comes from Titus chapter 2. It begins in verse 11. "For the grace of God has appeared that offers salvation to all people." I'm tempted to preach on it, but I'm going to move on. It teaches us, I could preach about that, to say no to ungodliness and worldly passions, and to live self-controlled, upright, and godly lives in this present age, while we wait for the blessed hope, the appearing of our great God and Savior Jesus Christ, who gave Himself for us to redeem us from all wickedness, and to purify for Himself a people that are His very own, eager to do what is good. I look at my life, I look at life in general, and I realize what God intends to do is redeem us and restore us, making us a people of His very own, who are eager to do what is good. Before we move forward on this, I've got to just ask you to think intentionally and deeply, to observe in your own life, how eager are you to do good? I think most of the Christians that I know, the authentic Christians that I know, are learning how to be eager to do what is good. We are in this war. It's like, we've got this battle going on in our mind between eager to do what is good for me and eager to do what is good. There are times when I do what is good, when I am eager to do what is good, that it won't be good for me. At least not initially, not in the short run, because it will cost me. It costs me time and energy, and honestly, to do good may mean I'll have to go outside my comfort zone. To be eager to do what is good, that's my objective, but most of the time I am only willing to do what is good. You know the difference, right? I'm willing, but I'm not eager. I don't have enthusiasm for doing what is good. I want to grow, and I want to suggest to you that a great goal for you personally is to let God teach you, shape you, train you to become eager to do what is good. And that's what Peter writes about. Who is going to harm you if you're eager to do good? One of the greatest safeguards that we have against outside influences doing us harm is an eagerness to do good. All things being equal, when I am eager to do what is good, I find it very difficult to imagine that there's trouble on the other side of that. Yet there could be, and that's what Peter writes. He's not this Pollyanna. He writes realistically, but in the next verse 14, but even if you should suffer for what is right, you are blessed. Wow. Even if I did what was right and now I suffer for it, Peter writes, you are blessed. Does it feel blessed to be somehow mistreated or punished for doing what is right? If I'm somehow harmed for doing what is right, does that feel blessed? No, probably not. Not at that moment anyway. There are things in our world right now that are so not right that must be somehow changed, or at least addressed, that there has to be somebody, a lot of somebodies who are ready to be eager to do what is good, or else our world is, it's on a skateboard to hell right now. Our country is so divided, it is so conflicted, and one of the things that we've become divided and conflicted on have to do with equality and equal treatment. I don't necessarily think that equality and equal treatment for all people is never going to happen. I'm not that pessimistic, but realistically, bringing a culture to the place where this will generally be true is going to be very, very difficult. And one of the reasons is there is this thing called homogeneity in cultures, where we say, I like people who are like me, and I will prefer people who are like me. This could have to do with their skin color, with their worldview, with their basic values and beliefs, could have to do with their accent or their language or their background. There are many factors that come into this. In America today, the color of one's skin it remains a difficulty. As a white male in middle-class America, life for me is not very difficult. I mean, I have frustrations and there are sometimes obstacles to my goals, but My life is not very difficult. And I tend to judge the whole world on the basis of how simple my life is. And really, my life is pretty simple. I don't think this is true of a man of color my age in the world I live in. I think he has to be more vigilant and more careful about where he goes and what he does when he goes there, what he looks like. I don't know how to get that fixed, but I do know that it won't ever happen until people are truly eager to do good. Now, if it means marching in a demonstration for you, okay. But I'm telling you, just posting something up on my Facebook page, just putting something on the window of my car, just writing some letters doesn't fix stuff. I may be willing for things to change for the good, but I have to become eager to do what is good. And I have to be cognizant, aware of the fact that even if I do what is right, I may sometimes be hurt by it. But when that happens, I will be blessed. It's pretty easy for me to reach back to the 1960s, the middle 60s, early and middle 60s, when the civil rights movement was in full swing. The marches, the demonstrations, the violence, the anger, the rancor, the racism that raged. You know, what we're seeing today in major metropolitan areas, that kind of goes up and down in terms of its intensity. And a lot of this, in my opinion, has to do with how many minutes of what kind do they get on media to exploit forgive me for my conspiracy theory, but I think they basically want to exploit, number one, a philosophical perspective and bias. And the second thing, this overpowers everything, I think, is that people will tune in when things look ugly. And when they tune in, we get to sell them stuff. That's how we make our money. So, I mean, realistically, what I see on the news may never really be an accurate picture of what happens. It may be a snapshot that gets extrapolated and exploded, and we decide what it means and tell you what it means. So I'm trying to factor that in. But here's the bottom line. If you want the world to change, you have to be eager to do what is good. And I'm going to even get more meddlesome now and say, in my neighborhood, I have to be eager to do what is good. Eager to do not what is good for me, eager to do not what is convenient for me or comfortable for me, but eager to do what is good. And it may mean I have to get out of my introverted comfort zone and cross a barrier or a boundary or a line. It may mean this for you as well. I want to suggest that every mom, dad, husband, wife needs to think about, how can I be eager to do what is good for my spouse? How can I be eager to do what is good for my family? One of the reasons I believe that God decided to populate the earth by women having children and men being in that process is to expose our selfishness. I never knew I didn't know the extreme of my selfishness until we began having our kids, and I realized I can't raise great kids and be a good dad and be as selfish as I by default am. I have to change my perspective. I have to become eager to do what is good for them, not just what is good for me. I'm advocating. I feel strongly that if the church could learn to be eager to do what is good, that's when we revolutionized the world. In the first century, the church was said to have turned the world upside down. How? By being eager to do what is good. So give yourself some kind of a little pop quiz. How eager are you to do what is good? Probably none of us are eager enough. And I'm not saying you need to scrunch down and get serious and grunt your way toward it. I'm saying you need to call out to the God of the universe, the God who establishes what is good and has told us what is good, and ask him to make you eager to do what is good and then follow his leading. That's all I got for today, you guys. I appreciate that you joined me for this Soul Care with Stevie Boy thing. And if you like it, ask somebody to come and join us, invite somebody else in. Hope I get to connect again next time on Stevie Boy, Soul Care with Stevie Boy.